Let me just start by saying how much I enjoyed Dave Barry's presentation before. I can't see him anymore. Many of the things that Dave said mirror the way that we think about things, and some of the things that we've done, which I'll talk about during the presentation, are actually enactments of some of those thoughts. And of course, Graham Sampson is just his depth of understanding and knowledge of the sector that we work in is unparalleled, and today was another fine example of that. There is a problem with Graham now, of course, which is that he's from New South Wales. And at this time of the year, relationships between Queenslanders and New South Welshmen sink to very, very low ebbs, and it's my intention to demonstrate how low they go.
My uncle and son live in Brisbane. Does that qualify me at all?
No, you're still the problem. So there are 4 surgeons at the Royal Brisbane Hospital who are sitting in the break room, and one of them says, I really like to operate on accountants because when you open them up, everything inside is numbered. His colleague says, no, but librarians are better because everything's catalogued, it's all in alphabetical order. No, says the third one. Electricians, everything's colour-coded, it's really easy. And the 4th one, of course, says, no, you're off the mark. What you really need in New South Welshmen, they're spineless, gutless, heartless, and their heads and asses are interchangeable. That's about as low as I can go. But I've only got a short time, and John, you'll wave at me when I'm getting close, please. We'll talk about GovCloud. We provide cloud-based IT services to Queensland councils and other organisations. We provide consulting and advice services based on the work that we do to councils all around Australia, including Victoria. Is anyone here from Milton? Milton is one of our consulting customers. The way that GovCloud is built, it's part of a customer service or council service cluster which the LGAQ built. There are 3 elements to it. Propel, which is outsourced business processes, shared services. I don't have time today, but there are lots of examples of the sort of things that Graham was talking about, which are part of the Propel model. Regional service provision being probably the most interesting part of that. Resolute IT is a more traditional IT services company that manages infrastructure for councils, particularly remote councils, and GovCloud, which provides the cloud platform that is enabling councils to move ahead. Some of the background that you may find interesting. Most councils around Australia spend about 4% of their overall budget on ICT. That number has been relatively constant for about the last 5 or 6 years. But the way that number has been made up, or is made up, has been changing. And one of the most interesting things is that the proportion of capital expenditure or CapEx of that number is dropping, and that's because people are replacing equipment with services, and that's exactly what the GovCloud model is all about. Another thing that was part of Graham's presentation was that it isn't necessarily a truism that bigger is better, but certainly in ICT, the larger and more capable councils do in fact do a better job of ICT. But the other interesting fact, which comes, this is a BDO, are they still called BDO Kendalls, or just BDO study that they do every year, is the councils who are embracing cloud as part of their solution, their performance is going up. The reason why the performance goes up is because they spend less time on low-level tasks and more time on high-level tasks. I've also got a note in here about security, which I'll get to in a moment. What councils find to be good about cloud things and what is bad. On the good side, costs are lower. They're not ridiculously lower. It's not, if cost cutting is your only reason to venture into the cloud, then I would strongly advise you not to do it, because you probably won't realise those savings. What you really do get from it is a way of changing what the service is that you're providing to your officers and to your community, because you take away the emphasis that currently exists within most ICT groups on the infrastructure and the plumbing, and you really put the weight on them to spend their time working on what it does, not how it does it, what the result is, not how well they polish the Juco. More time on doing, less time on fixing. It also means that you have more time to do new things. And this plays exactly into what Dave was saying before lunch, which is that you can't expect that an organisation which is under pressure, just keeping the engine ticking over, you can't expect them to be making really good decisions about the next place you're going to visit on the trip. If you take away those responsibilities, allow them to lift their heads up and look, typically in most councils, these are smart people who will do a good job. The bottom piece there, we did a consulting study for a medium-sized council in Queensland, provincial city, population of about 80,000 people. Their ICT group thought they were doing a fantastic job, and they were. They had a bulletproof network. The Technology One system came up every day, and the Orion payroll system came up every day, and they warded off all the hackers and all that sort of stuff. But the 100 people that we spoke to, who were users, were incredibly unhappy. And that's because they couldn't do anything. All they could do was just the corporate systems that they were provided with. So trying to do new things on iPads or with small apps and things like that didn't happen. What we've seen with some of our other customers is once you replace the infrastructure management or the nuts and bolts application management and pay for that as a service, the people that you have do have time to say, project management, let's put in smart sheets. We can put that in tomorrow, and it means that everybody will have a project management tool that they can use without any education or anything like that. The traditional IT way of doing that is a business case, procurement, training, rollout, failure, re-rollout, and it would take 6 months. I nearly mentioned the name there. At this particular council, they had smart sheets up and running in 4 days, and that's the kind of thing that everybody wants to do. I won't talk too much about the strategic stuff, I'll mention that in a moment, but this is all quite tactical and things that you can actually do tomorrow. You do have to worry about the bad stuff, and please don't make a big investment in cloud without first having gone through a diligence process to ensure that you've got the things on this slide covered. The really bad things relate to data. So if somebody else is looking after your data, then you need to be sufficiently secure in your own thinking to know exactly what's going to happen if something goes wrong. Because I can guarantee you something will go wrong, whether it'll be a small thing or a big thing, that depends on your luck and circumstances, but something will go wrong. And when it does go wrong, it's your fault. So you have to know what your risks are and how you're going to address or mitigate or ameliorate those risks before they happen. The other things mostly are one time and relate to design and contractual things, but the risks associated with data are actually the same risks that you have today. It's just that when you give the data to somebody else to look after, there is a governance focus on that issue. I won't tell you more stories because they're really bad. So our strategy is not to build the field of dreams and everybody will come, because that doesn't work. We work in local government. Okay, in local government, as we say, in Queensland, we have 77 kingdoms, and people make their own decisions. We have 2 councils, which between them have over 2 million people in population that they serve. They have budgets bigger than many state governments and things like that. At the other end of the scale, we have places like Ballou Shire, which has 280 people and 1.5 million cows, and it's a completely different place. The nature of the issues, the problems, they're both local government, but they are completely different things. So being able to satisfy Brisbane and Gold Coast is not really part of our aim, I have to say. They are very capable organisations that can look after themselves. But being able to look after Toowoomba, 175,000 people, rapidly growing, absolutely unable to get enough trained IT people into the city, and Ballou at the same time are things that we do have to look after. So our approach is to provide simple, easy steps so that councils can take pieces of applications or infrastructure and move them into the cloud, get immediate benefit, and then, having gained their confidence, allow them to build additional applications on top of that. So what do? We have 2 things that we do. We help people make the decision to move to the cloud, which you're all from councils, you know that particularly if you're a regional or rural council, someone's going to say, are we going to lose any jobs to this? You've got to be ready, you've got to go through that process. We help people do that. And then at an operational level, we help people move in. That's the hardest part. Actually moving from where you are into the cloud. It looks really easy, and all the vendors out there and all the salespeople will tell you it's a snap. It isn't. It's really hard. How do your business processes change? What are the things, what is your change management strategy? How do you deal with all of the people issues? If you've got a sysadmin who no longer has a role to play, that's all got to be dealt with properly. That's the hard part. And then the less hard part is actually just managing it for them on an ongoing basis and helping them make well, we've got that part running, now what's the next part that we move to? In terms of the things that we do today, you can see the list up there. They're all relatively simple things. Some of the more difficult things are disaster recovery, which is, that's sort of like, what's that saying? Piece of string. How long is a piece of string? Disaster recovery is one of those topics where, for the Commonwealth Bank, disaster recovery means that their customers theoretically don't know that they're going to have a problem. and that means their infrastructure and their cloud spend is the GDP of a small country. Whereas for most councils, recovering from a disaster means as long as the payroll is going to go out on time this week and the email is up so that we can deal with things, then we probably can have a day when all the systems don't work properly. Very, very, very different things. I did want to say there are some new things which I haven't put on this slide, which relate very specifically to some of the things that Dave was saying before, that in a previous life I ran a large software company, and many of the people who work for that software company now work for Technology One, and I still have a beer with those guys. They, when asked what is the biggest strategic danger that looms on your horizon, Technology One, and the answer is XERO, zero. It's not the actual product Xero, which is a small accounting system. It's the Xero concept, which, as Dave said before, it's on a growth path like you just can't believe. It's $60 a month for most companies, and it pretty much does everything. So why would you pick a number for a Tech One or a Civica license, $1 million? Why would you spend $1 million for a license, $200,000 a year, when, for $60 a user, you get pretty much everything you want? That's the area that we're working to get into. People at Technology One in particular don't really want us to do that, and are putting a lot of pressure around the place to say, well, if you do that, you might as well go with the Tech One system. So if you want any technology advice about the Technology One system, let me know. So there's just a list of some of the customers there. Some of the issues that we deal with many of these customers is right at the heart of the conference topic, which is it's much, much easier to deal with business as usual than it is to deal with all of the aspects of making a significant change. We try and help people make some of those changes. We sometimes have to start really small in order to make that happen. So I've got an example here. One of the things we do is have this, we have an RSDS, or Redundant Solutions for Disaster Scenarios, set of services which, like Victoria, we seem to have, we have offended the gods at some point, because they come back and give us some serious crap every year. So many councils need to be prepared for this event happening every year. If you're in the Hinchinbrook Shire Council, you know you're going to get a cyclone. At least one every year. Some years you get two, some years you get really, really bad ones. And it's no good saying, well, sorry, we can't talk to anybody because we've got a cyclone. Because the way we are today, we say, well, you knew you were going to have a cyclone. Surely you were prepared. So this is what RSDS is about, is helping get prepared. So an example is there's a place called Gundawingi, which is on the border with New South Wales, about 300-400 from Brisbane. Regional area with 12,000 to 13,000 people. They get chronically flooded when it floods because it's pretty flat, and absolutely nothing can go anywhere, so they have lots of issues. Their website, which used to be hosted in the council chambers, would go offline just at the time when everybody is looking to get information about what roads closed and things like that. Very simply, we took that website, revamped it and put it into the cloud. So the last two floods that they've had, their websites worked perfectly. The other issue is that when they do have a flood, all their officers are out on the road, they've all got smartphones, and the way that they communicate with each other is by using their council email system. Now they could use, you know, a cloud-based email system, but if you think about what they're doing when they're out there, they're actually, you know, I need to send the latest copy of the map to that foreman who's working out whether they're going to close that road or the other road. All of that information is actually in the council's mail server. So what we built for them was a mail server in the cloud. Just took all of their information, we replicated pretty much instantaneously. There's a small transmission lag, but if for any reason the council mail system fails, not just because of flood or fire or a disaster scenario, then users don't notice it, we just fails over onto the other system. That's a really small example of the kind of thing that happens. It's really easy to do. It's a small investment, and it's the sort of thing that encourages councils who, particularly in places like Gundawindi, which is not an economic powerhouse. Thank you. It encourages them to look at actually going about undertaking some of the changes. That's the Gundawindi website. Part of that arrangement is we have a cloud-based system called Disaster Hub, which is before, during and after disasters, and the synchronised backup mail system is part of the during thing, but we also provide lots of information and capability before and after. And that's it. Probably don't have time for questions or no.